Okay, everybody, let's take it from the top.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
Hi ho everybody and welcome back to D Plus Us, the show about all things Disney. I'm one of your hosts, Griffin Tennell, Griffy D Patton. With me as always, the wonderful, the amazing, the marvelous Mr. Mitch George. How are you doing today?
I need some Wheaties
Yeah, so do I. Wake me up. Hearty
before
breakfast.
you go.
What a movie we're talking about today, folks. We are talking today about Thunderbolts, releasing quite recently. I don't actually have the proper date, even though it was yesterday. Or technically today.
April 29th, April 30th?
Dude, it's May 2nd.
What is what?
Release date of May 2nd, 2025. Runtime of 126 minutes. The newest Marvel movie. The 36th film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
I don't know if I should feel envious or concerned with the fact that my son now has to grow up, and by the time he gets to watching these, there's probably going to be like 45 movies and 18 shows that he's got to watch to get caught up so he can come to the movies with us and watch the movie as soon as it comes out.
Enjoy the rewatch, at least.
I'm going to have a ball with it, you know that. We should probably just make content out of that, too. Like, I'm rewatching every Marvel thing ever. Let's talk about it.
Okay, I was going to say, as long as we're doing it about the rewatch and we're not making content out of your kid, because that's two very different things.
No. Not until you can consent to that.
Yeah. Of course, folks, we are here to talk about Marvel. We are going to start this episode spoiler-free. So if you haven't seen Thunderbolts, we will give you our thoughts, our opinions, and whatnot before we jump into spoilers. And then we will have the full spoiler discussion because this movie absolutely warrants it. Before we do that, though, let's hit y'all with some of the facts. This movie was directed by Jake Schreier. Jake Schreier hasn't done a whole ton of directing when it comes to movies. His directorial debut was a movie in 2012 called Robot and Frank. Then in 2015, he went and directed Paper Towns. Yes, the John Green book. Most recently, his newest film is Thunderbolts, but he also, in relation to us, did episode 5 of Star Wars Skeleton Crew. So the dude's been around. He done like a ton of music videos for pretty much everyone. He's done a bunch of stuff there. As far as people goes, though, this movie, starring, of course, Florence Pugh, Sebastian Stan, Wyatt Russell, Olga Kurylenko, Louis Pullman, David Harbour, Julia Louis-Dreyfus. So many fantastic, wonderful people. Hannah John Kamen, Wyatt Russell. I think I might have said Wyatt
Wendell
Russell.
Pierce, Geraldine Viswanathan,
Yeah.
Chris Bauer.
Trying to remember if there's anyone else important that my name's forgetting, but there's a lot of people.
Did you say Hannah John Kamen?
I did say Hannah John Kamen.
Okay, wonderful.
A lot of fantastic, wonderful actors in this. Everyone acting their goddamn asses off in this movie, I'll tell you what. We'll get into the opinions in a second.
It's not opinions, it's a spoiler, so we'll talk about it in a bit.
That. Okay, fair. The runtime of 126 minutes. And honestly, it doesn't even feel like it. This movie moves by so fast.
Flies.
Mm-hmm. Writing team for this one. Screenplay is written by Eric Pearson and Joanna Kahlo. Eric Pearson, who has worked on a lot of Marvel projects. In fact, has worked on almost most Marvel projects that's come out ever since, like, The Consultant. Like, the Marvel one-shot in 2011.
Yeah.
More recently, the dude did this one. He also was on the writing team for Fantastic Four. He was also on the writing team for Transformers 1. He wrote the screenplay for Black Widow. He did rewrites on Endgame and Infinity War. Like, the dude has been around. And then Joanna Kahlo, this is actually her first writing with with Marvel. Previously having written on a bunch of different shows, including The Bear and Beef. A fantastic show that I highly recommend.
Yeah, lots of connections to both of those here, specifically around actors who were cast and then unfortunately due to the SAG-AFTRA strikes had to bounce due to scheduling conflicts, that being Stephen Yeun, originally cast to play Bob, and Ayo Edebiri, originally cast for the role of Mel.
And as much as I would have loved to see those two in those roles, I really love who we got for this.
Lewis Pullman is the star. Well, I wouldn't say the star. He is the breakout star of this film. We already knew how amazing this cast was. Although I would also like to shout out, once I go back to the cast list on my other screen, because I'm bad with remembering name. Hannah John Kamen was really good. I really liked her as Ava here. I think it really did a lot to develop the character from what we saw in Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Yeah, see, I genuinely don't think there was a bad performance in this. But yeah, Geraldine
Viswanathan.
Amazing in this role. I loved her so much. Like, this was very much that side character that I was like, okay, great, they're here at first. And then just as we continued on with the story, I just love that we had that role in this.
And I do like where they kind of set up that character to be at the end of the film, which we'll talk about as we get into spoilers. But then also just back to Lewis Pullman, I think like this is his breakout performance. Like this is the thing that's going to put him on the map. This is for him what Top Gun Maverick was for Glenn Powell. Like Lewis Pullman is going to be everywhere in a couple of years, and you can quote me on that.
Yeah, I want to keep talking, especially about these guys, especially about Geraldine, because I have some theories about her character, but that's all going to be spoiler territory. The last thing I want to shout out before we give our opinions is the music of this. The Thunderbolts theme is amazing and wonderful, and again, is one of those things that we have to wait for spoilers to talk about. For a very clear reason that I know Mitch understands. Yes, and you'll understand if you've seen the movie.
Which, if you haven't, stop right now. Pull out your phone. Go to the application of your choice for your local movie theater chain and buy a ticket to see this thing as soon as you can from this moment right now where you're watching this video or putting my voice in your ear holes, because it is worth the price of admission. I saw it in IMAX, and I saw it in Dolby. It was something.
The music
for
this movie done by the band Son Lux, who a few years ago did another fantastic film, especially music-wise. That film being Everything Everywhere All at Once. And goddamn, they found a way to outdo themselves. Yep. Every single moment in this, the score is perfect. It is perfectly encapsulating all of it. But I've rambled on long enough. I have given y'all a ton of information you did not need about this movie. So, Mitch, it is finally time. What did you think of Thunderbolts?
In what we were shown prior to this film coming out in all of the marketing materials, I didn't expect this to be as real of a narrative as it was in terms of the way that it deals. I mean, you introduce a character like Sentry, and if you know anything about Robert Reynolds in the comics, it's a lot to do with mental health, a lot to do with mental illness. I didn't expect them to go as heavy into the topics of mental health, mental wellness, PTSD, depression, but they just went full ham, and I'm really glad that we've gotten something like this that obviously with the Marvel coat of paint on top of it, which lessens some of the impact because it is still this Hollywood blockbuster. But to delve into those kind of topics on such a grand stage, especially with I'm going to say shorter runtime, but it's still 2 hours, but it didn't feel like it.
It feels shorter.
It's really, really interesting that they went this route, and I'm glad that they did.
Yeah, I loved this movie so much. I have loved a lot of the movies we have gotten post Endgame. And I know I'm very much in the minority on that. I can watch these movies and always find something that I really enjoyed. Thunderbolts, for me, honestly feels like one of the... I'm trying to decide if I want to really be hyperbolic about this.
Go for it.
This feels like the first must-watch MCU movie since Endgame. This is easily, to me, the best MCU movie we have gotten since Endgame.
In
It is
terms
not
of the
even
story that it
close.
tells,
In terms of
I would
everything, I think it is the best.
I would agree in part. There are two things for me that make that an exception. This movie doesn't hit the way that it does without having Black Widow, which is a post-Endgame film.
I don't care.
I know. I'm
so
just saying.
what I like about this movie,
without that movie, this movie doesn't do as well because it has to do more to introduce Yelena, more to introduce
I don't
Red
think
Guardian.
it does. I think you get a full understanding of these characters right off the bat. You understand.
It does a very good job.
You understand it immediately, but also, we are at a point where that can't matter anymore. We are the 36th film of the MCU.
Yeah. The other caveat that I have there is that Spider-Man No Way Home came out post-Endgame, and just for me and the way that I grew up with Spider-Man being my hero, he's my guy, getting those three on screen together was...
Oh, it was a moment. It
amazing.
Absolutely was. It was fantastic.
And it's just an amazing film, I think, in terms of subverting the expectations that we had going into that the home trilogy for Spider-Man was actually all an origin story and got him to the with great power comes great responsibility moment that is the nexus event for who Spider-Man is as a character. And that was really great, and I really like that.
Can you imagine what Peter's
made me a lot more emotional than this movie did.
Can you imagine what Peter's going through during the main event of this movie?
Maybe he's in the jungle being hunted by Kraven right now, and that's why he didn't show up at the end. I don't know. The fact that no one shows up at the end is kind of weird to me, but we'll get there when we get there.
Yeah, we'll get there when we get there, because I think there's a good reason for it, and it has to do with superheroes and trauma. But no, genuinely, like, even with movies like that are fantastic and wonderful, like, I genuinely do love those movies, and I love, like, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, and these are fantastic, great movies. But there are almost every single one of these movies are movies that you very much can wait for streaming. Even with how amazing No Way Home was in theaters, you could still wait for that one to go to streaming. Like, we knew what we were getting out of that movie. I did not come into Thunderbolts expecting what we got. And getting this movie that, in terms of Griffin's just going to disagree with Mitch this episode, I don't think the impact is lessened because it's superheroes. Like, I know the Marvel Code of Paint lessens a lot of some of the stuff they tell. Just look at Thor. And frankly, take your pick on any of the movies. It lessens the impact on all of them. This one, I feel like because it is a band of broken people who are all broken in their own very unique ways, it really shines a great light on not fixing it, but living with it.
Mm-hmm. I think what this movie does a great job of, and I hate to draw comparisons to other films and say this, you know me with my bit, this is the Thor, the whatever. It's not the Thor That Dark World of any of this.
Sorry, I'm just waiting for the Suicide Squad comparisons.
This movie reminds me a lot of Guardians. First Guardians movie, there were no expectations for that team. People were kind of put out that, like, why are they spending one of their summer blockbuster slots on this movie? No one cares about this team. It's just space, whatever. And it came out and everyone was blown away. And everyone was surprised by it. And it was the highlight, I would say, of the origin stories we got in the Infinity Saga. Thunderbolts here, Thunderbolts asterisk, for me, felt like that in terms of what it's bringing to the multiverse saga, especially knowing what it sets up at the end, which we're not going to start there. But where this movie ends up, I think, leaves the MCU in a very interesting place. And I'm very much looking forward to what's coming next. Not that I wasn't already, but the events of this film do a great job, not only of being a well-rounded story about loss and trauma and dealing with that and mental health, but also, like, superhero shit, even though most of us just punch and kick and use guns.
Yeah, I think I recently did another person's podcast talking about the video game Celeste, which is a fantastic game that I highly recommend if you play video games, that is about depression. And that's what this movie very much is about in both Yelena and in Bob. Slight spoiler there, but a necessary one. This genuinely handles it in such a great way. That is why I think I love this movie. Like, I was crying multiple times throughout this film. This movie got an absolute gasp out of me multiple times.
I know exactly. The one that got me. Carmen turned to me, and you know exactly.
Oh yeah, I know exactly.
Like, what the fudge?
But then there's also these fantastic production tricks that go with it. Like, again, when it comes to the feeling I haven't felt from Marvel in a while, is I wanted to watch this movie immediately again.
Me too.
I wanted to turn around and buy a ticket for the next showing.
It was the first thing I said to Carmen when I got in the car is I need to see this again. And I haven't said that since No Way Home.
Yeah.
Which, knowing what you know about me and knowing how I feel about the character of Spider-Man says a lot. Because, the last 3 movies for me that I saw more than once in the theater were No Way Home, Endgame, and Infinity War.
Yeah, I used to make a point to watch most Disney films twice before we would review them, and I haven't done that in forever. This is the first one where I genuinely considered it, and I would have if we weren't on top of our goddamn shit with this recording.
We were both ready to just go out to the theater again tonight and see it.
We genuinely, folks, had a conversation of, should we record tonight, or do you want to go see it again? Yeah, I really do feel like this film is stepping into the next step, though, in our lead up into Doomsday.
It's the end of Phase 5, right? This is the last film in Phase 5.
This, in a lot of ways, feels, again, with our comparisons, I'm going to steal one of yours in a way. This feels like Avengers 1 in a lot of ways to me. This
fully agree.
In a lot of ways to me. And I didn't realize
more than that
why
without spoiling the movie.
Until the end of the movie. So, folks, we are going to jump into full spoilers here. If you have not seen it.
Why would you jump us into full spoilers here? Because you know, by us talking about what you just said, that when we go full spoilers, we're immediately going to talk about the end of the movie. You said we weren't doing that.
We're going to talk about the end of the movie, but I want to talk about everything as a whole. I promise it'll work. I promise it'll work. And we do this every time, you know this. So
every time.
Full spoilers,
we both said to each other we weren't going to do it this time.
I did not say that. I told you exactly how it was going to go.
Yeah, you did.
Full spoilers, folks. If you have not seen it, seriously, go watch this movie in theaters. Support this movie. This movie is amazing. It deserves the support, even if it is just the next Marvel movie. Go watch it. Come on back. Full spoilers starting now. It's not just them being deemed the new Avengers at the end of this movie.
But it's also the coming together moment in New York City at the base of Avengers Tower. All of these things that are just parallels to what happened in the first movie. An attack on New York. It's
even
so
going back,
choreographed.
A lot of Yelena's bits with Bob very much emulate Natasha's bits with Loki in Avengers.
Hulk.
No,
I was going to say with Hulk in
yes.
Age of Ultron.
Yeah, but I'm talking specifically when Loki's in the cage.
See, when I saw the interactions between Bob and Yelena in the vault, for me, it did just allude back to Nat and Bruce.
Fair. I would just say I don't think there's a romantic relationship there. So
neither do I.
That's why I wouldn't go to that one. Also, because canonically, Yelena is Ace. And I will always remind folks of that. Because, God, I see so many ships with this character.
Yeah.
There's so much to talk about with this. There's the theorization and stuff. I want to talk about Mel for just a second. So Mel's Songbird, right?
This is one of those things where they're kind of repurposing a character from the comics, but not in the way you'd expect.
Like
Songbird, an Aldrich Killian.
Melissa Gold is Songbird's name.
Yeah. I think for me that feels like it's more of an Easter egg than it is setting her up to actually be Songbird in the MCU.
At this point, you never know, man.
There's all of these things where it's like, oh, they're setting this up for 6 years from now, and nah. It's a nice little Easter egg nod to the fans of a character that otherwise wouldn't have gotten any screen time, and it's a nice nod to the Thunderbolts. But this is as much a Thunderbolts movie as Secret Invasion was a Secret Invasion show.
Fair.
Because
we
it's
got
not
Ox Group in this. Fucking
We
Ox
did.
Group. Like, that's such a specific reference.
But when they said that the first time, I thought I heard Oscorp and I almost jumped out of my chair.
So did I, and then I realized, right, Ox. So Ox, O-X-E. Ox Group is, in the comics, Allegra, Valentina Allegra de Fontaine. Her company that essentially is like partnered up with this super secret society that Captain America and the Winter Soldier fight. It's a whole thing in the comic books. They're called the Outer Circle. It's a really weird storyline. That's essentially like the Illuminati of the Illuminati kind of shit. I'm not sure why they did that one. But ultimately, I love Allegra Valentina. I keep wanting to say Allegra Valentina. I love Val in this movie.
Yeah.
Finally getting her as the proper big villain. I know we got her for a minute in Black Panther, but I think that was more of a cameo than anything else.
Yeah, we got a bit of it in Falcon and the Winter Soldier as well, but again, that was more post credits, right?
Yeah.
With Walker.
Yeah, and then we got it in the end of Black Widow.
Yeah.
Like, it was all
Which I
leading
think
to this.
It was, dude. Oh my god, I'm so stupid. She's the Nick Fury of the multiverse saga.
Yeah.
She's literally popped up at the end of all of these things to build her Avengers team.
She literally has a line in her her court hearing at the beginning about how she wants to build a shield.
How am I just? Oh, I'm so dumb.
She's evil capitalist Nick Fury.
Yeah.
And even evil isn't the right word. I would say more self-serving than evil.
Well, no, she even says it in this movie. She has that great conversation with Mel when she comes out of the bathroom after talking with Bucky of like, you think there's good and there's bad, but there's bad and there's worse.
Yeah, I love her in this. Just, she plays it at such just enough of a cartoony level to me of like, honestly, Tony Stark level of flippant and frustrating to other people.
Reminded me a lot of Jeff Bridges as Obadiah Stane, to be honest.
Yes, but good.
I honestly really like Bridges as Obadiah. Like I really like. We're also
there's just a couple lines there that just have turned that man's performance into an absolute meme.
Fair, but that's also because the movie came out 17 years ago.
No,
today
we can't do that. We cannot do
17
that.
years
Mitch,
ago
don't
today,
do that
the
to us.
MCU started May 2nd, 2008.
This isn't even going to come out today. Why are you doing this?
Because you already said it's May 2nd.
No, I said the release date's May 2nd.
Yeah, but you know you're going to put this out. Oh, no, you'll probably hold this till Tuesday, won't you?
Yeah, I will.
Oh, well, shit. I don't know, then. Whatever.
Gaslighting success.
The parallels I see between Obadiah and Val is just, you've got this really, personable character that's a dick. And they both play dickish, supervillain, multi-billionaire conglomerate folk real good, I guess.
Oh, yeah. I think with this one where I like Valentina more is just that she has a lot more to do. Like, Stain was here and then gone. And he served his purpose for what it was, but also, Iron Man was meant to be a single movie. It wasn't meant to necessarily spawn this multiverse we're in now. And then it just ended up being that good.
Yeah.
I think Val fits more into the world for me because she was made to be a part of that world.
Yeah, I would fully agree with you there. I do think what's interesting, too, about the character of Val is we get more backstory for her in 2 minutes than we did in Obadiah the entirety of that movie. And thankfully, like, they did this so well. They used the Void to such an advantage in this film in terms of you get these brief moments of despair, outright disdain for Yelena, John, and Val when Bob touches them, right? And that makes Val that much more relatable as a character. Like, she's doing some terrible things, but she's also had really terrible things done to her and has made mistakes in her life and has regrets and is this character with layers, which thankfully they use the Void in that way because it was really, really well done.
The Void was such a great pick for this. It was when I heard that, saw that they were doing Sentry. Sentry is such a weird character that has this mental health aspect to it, but is a very comic booky ass character in the comics.
Which we got in the post credit scene. Like, that was Sentry to a T of just like, if I have a high, I'm also gonna have a low. So I'm just
even
gonna be
more than
Bob.
that. Like Bob in the comics, first off, significantly older. But Bob is kind of this forgotten superhero. In the New Avengers run when he initiated, actually one of the first comic books I ever properly collected. He's kind of this, literally the only way the world remembers him is within in-universe comic books. And they essentially find him and pull him back together and deploy him on missions whenever they basically need to get out of deep shit.
He is the get out of jail free card that also comes with this terrible entity that can just destroy everybody.
Yeah. But with that, they install, or I guess kind of it just appears, because essentially everybody's memories come back of this superhero. His watchtower appears just on top of Avengers Tower. Yeah. It's a really unique look, but we saw that in this movie of their construction that they're doing to Avengers Tower, rebranding it the Watchtower, and you're seeing that, and you're getting that in there, and you're getting the bits in here. You get the over marvelized looking of his suit, which makes a lot of sense in this movie.
They dyed his hair.
They dyed his hair blonde. Like, so much of that is a character that should not work in movies. And it works so damn well within this larger story of mental health and whatnot. With depression in particular is kind of the big one for this.
Oh, also bipolar disorder for Bob specifically, right?
Mm-hmm. Well,
or maybe less so bipolar, more just mood swingy.
Mood swingy. I would say yes, because I mean, like, Bob is bipolar in the comics, but I don't think they never really put a name on any of it.
Not that they have to. You don't have to label any of these things. Mental health is a spectrum. There is no one size fits all. Oh, this is bipolar disorder, so that's how we can frame this. No, everyone's unique.
Yeah,
everyone's case is unique.
I am trying to be careful about the words we're using there because
the
this is one of those situations where different words have different impacts.
Yeah.
And especially have different impacts in a medical sense. I'll tell you some stories after we're done recording. I'd rather not bring up my medical history on the show.
No, that's entirely fair.
But
also a little disappointed that we didn't get his sidekick, Watchdog.
Look, can you just imagine Watchdog hanging out with Cosmo?
Like, that could have been the post-credit, like the mid-credit scene of like, hey guys, I got a dog.
I don't know, that mid-credit scene with Alexei was pretty damn great.
It's also very good. Let's not start there though. Let's rewind a bit.
We don't have to. Maybe that's unimportant. I just like that they got on the Wheaties box. I'll tell you what.
It was his lifelong dream of put the superhero from Russia on Wheaties box.
I am so jealous. When I went, so I got to see this movie at Disney Springs in Dolby Atmos.
Rub it in, why don't you?
Well, first off, it was my first time seeing a movie in Dolby Atmos, and now I want to see all movies that way. Although honestly, I think the next
time I'm going to see that I had the choice between Dolby Atmos or IMAX, and it's not there are two legitimate IMAX screens in the GTA, but the one we went to was a fake IMAX screen. It was one of the converted theaters. But we really only did that due to proximity to our babysitter.
Very fair.
Shout out to mother-in-law. We're watching baby.
Yeah, this is my first time. Like, Dolby Atmos was just not a thing we had in Portland. So
it's real good.
It was real great.
We do have a Dolby Atmos theater that's close, but the closest theater to us is just like IMAX.
It was especially great with the Void. Because like Dolby Atmos' big thing is the blacks on screen, like the color black on screen, looking amazing.
I do think if I see this again, it's gonna have to be Dolby Atmos.
I highly recommend it.
Yeah,
it is so worth it.
Because let's just
but-
talk about that for a second. Just the VFX around the Void.
Can I
as a
finish
character.
one thing really quick that is much more unimportant?
Yeah.
Going to it, I was the first showing of the day, but before that, they were doing the the Disney College program showing for all of the DCP kids, and I see them all walking out of the theater, and I duck to avoid spoilers, but every single one of them had cereal boxes that were the Thunderbolts Wheaties box.
Yeah, they had those at some of the preview showings here as well, like the afternoon previews. But we didn't go until
I saw
later in the
those,
evening.
and
Our
I've like,
theater didn't have them.
I wanted one of those boxes so bad. And I know it's just a shitty, like, probably not even the same quality as an actual cereal box, which is already pretty shitty quality.
You just wanted to put it on the shelf behind you.
I just wanted it for the shelf. Would put it next to Figment. It would have looked great.
Yeah.
But
Did
the
you
question
see
is,
too
which
that
Figment?
on the set of Doomsday, which is in production right now, they did a showing for the cast.
I did not see that they did that.
Oh, here, let me see if I can find it quick. Doomsday. I don't know if we want to talk about who was in the photo. I can find it after.
No, we can talk
because
about
it might be. Well, I know we're full of spoilers for this. I don't necessarily want to spoil if people are trying to avoid who's been cast in Doomsday.
If you're trying to avoid that, don't watch this show.
Okay, giving you 3 seconds to mute. So you have Winston Duke, Robert Downey Jr., Paul Rudd, Channing Tatum, Simu Liu, Chris Hemsworth, and Anthony Mackie watching Thunderbolts on set during the production of Doomsday. I thought that was really fun.
Yeah, if you send me the picture, I can show it.
Yeah, let me just see. I don't have the picture itself. I have a post from IGN.
Okay, that's all I need. IGN Thunderbolts on.
I put it in the Discord.
Oh yeah, see if I show it on Discord.
Well, I put the Blue Sky link on the Discord, not just the photo.
Okay, gotcha. I'm just gonna fuck things up for a second. Anyways, this movie's fantastic and wonderful. Hey, talk about Alexi for a second.
Yeah, so I think I want to get your thoughts on this as well, especially having seen it in Dolby Atmos, because even just seeing it the way we did in IMAX, converted IMAX theater, the sense of dread from the Void because of the way they did the VFX was, I've never seen something like that in cinema before. It was really, really interesting visually, and then also just knowing that the director and the VFX director drew inspiration from nuclear attacks and and
you can see it like
the shadows of the people being left behind being reminiscent of those from the nuclear attacks in Japan. My God,
what a moment! Yeah. Okay, so I have the picture.
It's so unsettling.
That is a great picture of everyone just hanging out watching this movie.
Right.
It also makes me wonder who else was there.
But also, even the people that are there might not be playing the character that you think they're playing because of multiverse things and shenanigans and such. So, like, who knows?
Interesting RDJ's hair here. Just saying.
Let's not speculate. We're not to that portion of the podcast.
You give me a picture. I'm going to speculate. We're speculating throughout the entire thing. Shut up.
I just want Mayonnaise.
Well, that's never happening.
You don't know that.
You're right.
Multiversal Winston Duke, giant white gorilla costume.
Actually, I can tell you as a matter of fact that's never happening.
Why?
Because it is horribly racist.
Right, that part of it. That's why they're not going to do it. You're right. I mean,
that's why they didn't do it to begin
thing.
with.
They did the whole Nazi thing.
Yeah, because Nazis are definitively evil.
That's true.
Which, for some reason, we still don't understand in the year 2025. But alas,
we're not going to get into that. I mean, we can if you want.
Look, it's just something I have to bring up.
We didn't elect the dude that was going to be a Trump guy in the Canadas.
Hey,
so
congrats.
there's that. He also didn't even get elected to Parliament. He was voted out of Parliament for the first time in 21 years.
Bringing it back around to proper Thunderbolts. Let's talk about some more of the team. Not surprising that they killed off Taskmaster almost immediately.
Well, that's what I was saying earlier. Of like, you feel bad for Olga Kurylenko. She finally gets to say something, and then 3 minutes later, she's taking a bullet to the temple.
Yeah, part of me wishes that they had kept her around. Like, you could have done some really fun stuff with Taskmaster, but ultimately, it's for the best. They haven't. The character there was such an interesting take to me in Black Widow, but ultimately does feel a little bit like a waste of this character.
Yeah.
And then at this point, I don't think they would have done anything interesting with Taskmaster.
The thing, what's funny is like I could have seen them doing with Ava's character what, like they could have done this. Either of those characters could have made it out of that vault. I think Ava's powers are more interesting visually, and I'm glad she's still around. But it did it did a good job of setting the tone of like the new. It is funny the parallels it draws to the comics. Like the Thunderbolts were the new Avengers, but they weren't good people, and they're doing the same thing here because like Ava straight up murders someone in this movie, and we're not talking enough about that. Like who they have made the Avengers are not good people, and I think that's going to be an interesting plot line to follow through Doomsday and Secret Wars.
I mean, a lot of the questions around this movie was why does a Thunderbolts movie need to exist, and now we as an audience know that. But now, in universe, that is the question: why are these new Avengers? Why are these new Avengers here? Why do they?
Especially if Sam Wilson has the trademark for the Avengers.
Dude, I love that so much.
Alexi, man. God. We are new Avengers with a Z.
Hey, Mitch, stop talking about the post-credit scene.
But it's so good.
You're gonna do it to me. I'm gonna do it to you.
Yeah, we're getting close to talking about that anyway.
We're all over the
speculation station.
But I mean, yeah, Taskmaster. I'm not surprised. Ghost was fantastic in this. We have also continued my favorite new tradition in the MCU, which is just everybody gets to take the piss out of John Walker.
Yep, and it was really good here. And he even did. It's so like he takes the budget store Captain America thing to 11. Because when he says "on your left," I had to cover my mouth to not upset everyone in our theater by laughing like a hyena. Well, I know, but like, I don't want to be that guy.
I also wasn't the only one laughing at that. So
people chuckled, but I was like ready to full on guttural. Oh my god, I can't believe they just did that, and everyone else would have thought I was a lunatic.
The one that really got a laugh out of my theater was Alexi's like, "Yeah, I'm fulfilled." I thought you said you were fulfilled. Of course not. Look around. Like, that one killed my theater. A lot of the humor in this did. I think 90% of the humor of this movie really hit for me.
I'm surprised as much of it hit in my theater as it did, because I feel like crowds have started to not necessarily sour on the MCU, but like there's definitely less fervor around it as you would have had for something like, I don't know, I'm trying to think back, like Guardians 2 or something in the lead up to Infinity War, like Black Panther, where everything. I mean, that was a very different movie. It was highlighting a very different type of character for an audience that's been largely underrepresented in film, and I was glad to see that. But just in terms of everything post Endgame, there hasn't been that same drive to the theater. I would be curious to go and look, other than Spider-Man, if any of those films have hit that $1 billion mark.
I don't think any have.
Guardians might have.
I had it up a second ago. Then we started looking at other shit.
Here, I got Box Office Mojo for the MCU. No Way Home did. Oh no, Life. Oh, that's only in the US.
Yeah, I think global. Only No Way Home hit it.
Deadpool and Wolverine didn't it?
Did it?
I think so.
I think there were another. Yeah, they did. It's 1.3.
Yeah.
There's no way Brave New World did. Yeah. I bring it back.
Oh, Guardians didn't even. Guardians did not get close.
No, it was never going to.
All territories worldwide. It did get close. $845 million.
That's still pretty good.
Yeah. Much better internationally.
So much fantastic shit to talk about with this movie. We're talking about everything but this movie. We'll talk about like production design. I'm kind of purposely not talking about Yelena yet because Yelena, the star of this movie, fantastic, wonderful, and we will talk about her. But she deserves a giant segment of this show. Production design of this was so goddamn good, and like you could see it in some of the shots. I think cinematography in this movie done by Andrew Draws Palmero, who did The Green Knight, which is excellent, and everyone should go watch it. But the VFX we've already talked about being great, but then there's the whole sequence in the actual void itself. Mind you, we've seen that kind of style a little bit already, particularly in Agatha All Along and WandaVision. But there's that moment where where you see the forest turn to, oh, this is a room.
It's a soundstage.
Yeah, and then you see it throughout the different rooms going forward. I really love that. I love that we got to see that on the big screen in a situation where a lot of the people seeing this movie probably haven't watched Agatha All Along. You should.
And they should. It's fantastic. Yeah. One thing I will say is, while I do agree with the cinematography and the production design, one thing I didn't totally vibe with is it felt like the overall lighting and color palette, like knowing that the void is going to be your third act big bad, everything's going to go to darkness, everything's going to be really depressing, really, really grim. They probably could have done a little more with color here in terms of lighting. It did feel like there were a few scenes that I think were good. Like the vault had a nice orange hue to it, and there were a couple other moments like that. But by and large, we have this kind of like muted, like almost like a overcast day across the entire movie. It was either at night or overcast, which I thought was not an interesting choice because we haven't really seen that before.
I think it fits.
I didn't mind it, but it did.
It fits for a team of
stand out as something to me that could have been different.
I think it fits for a team of all ex-Black Ops weirdos. Like, and especially with the situations that they're in throughout this, I don't feel it being weird. And the times that it does change and it goes into those brighter moments are a lot of the Senate stuff. Or the fundraiser that Val is running. Like, or when they get into Avengers Tower for the first time. I think it does a good job of that, where like those moments that it does get brighter are brighter for a reason. Whether it is the initial introduction of Sentry or Bucky trying to work in the light rather than in the darkness, which is hilariously terrible.
But there are even moments of like Bucky in his apartment, or Yelena and Alexei in his apartment, or just a lot of the action scenes took place with that same kind of lighting of like, oh, it's either like dim or dark. And like, we've seen that before of people, oh, dim, dark, gritty. That's all the Netflix shows did. They all had the same color palette. They all did this. They didn't really play around with that. I would have loved to have seen something. I don't know what it is though. That's the thing.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's not something I'm upset about. I don't know what they would have done differently. I don't know if I would have chosen this.
My issue with it is I don't think any other coloring into some of this lighting would have worked. Like, I don't think it would have fit with this film. Like, it's weird that it's a little bit darker in their apartments.
As Carmen photobombs the video.
Just love that she's walking, it's waving. But like, I don't see where they could be more colorful with it. I think you have something like Suicide Squad, right, where it is a similar vibe to the team, but that is a squad that it makes sense for things to get colorful and to get weird. They are meant to be this group of a bunch of different powerful people. For a film that is primarily about depression, color doesn't always make sense.
The only thing I can say as a counterpoint to that is you literally have a character called the Red Guardian, and it looks like he's wearing maroon. Like, this shirt is red, and this is what Alexei should have looked like running across the screen like a weirdo in New York in a Soviet-era superhero costume, but he didn't. And that's fine. But at the same time, like, you don't have to be scared of the light, and I think that would have been an interesting thing for them to play into as well, and that is sort of where Elena's character gets of, like, you have your good days, your bad days. At the beginning, she's like, you just push it all down, and eventually she comes to the realization and works with Bob of like, You can't. You have to share it. You have to talk about it. And that's very powerful. And I feel like they could have played around with that a little more with the lighting around the core characters themselves, because I feel like all of their scenes were lit very similarly. And then
will ever be
the stuff that happened elsewhere, like the gala and all that, it almost felt out of place in this movie. Like they almost shot two different movies, which...
See, I really like that vibe. I like that they feel different, because they are different worlds that are entangled in this issue. And then they come together in that end scene of her announcing the new Avengers. That's when that lighting kind of meshes. But I especially like it for
As
Bucky.
does the theme.
Because Bucky looks horrible throughout that. Right? Like, Bucky's not doing a good job senatoring.
No.
And it's hilarious to watch because he is so bad about it. Like, his entire scene with Mel of when he, like, gives her the business card. She's like, is this your trash? It's my business card. Like, him doing a bad job of it and trying to struggle with it. Like, he pulls, what's his name? Wendell Pierce around into, like, hallways. Like, there's no cameras on the spot. I love that he's doing such a bad job. And then when he comes in and finally goes through, it gets back into his element. He goes Terminator on those damn dudes.
Well, it's also funny too. Of like he's trying to play like Soviet era spy. It's like, dude, we're living in the 21st century. I get it that you're like 120 at this point, but like, I don't care if we don't. The cameras don't see us. Everyone's got a spyware device in their pocket. Like
the dude's response. Wendell Pierce's response of, just text me next time.
Which, shout out to Wendell Pierce. If you haven't, he is fantastic in the show Suits.
Yeah, there it is.
Look, it's a great show. And he's really good in it.
The dude's been in so much else.
I recently watched all of Suits. That's why. Suits.
Look at this. Everything keeps coming back to Suits right now.
Look, it's the thing I know him from the past.
Have you watched any of that reboot? Like Suits LA?
Oh, the spinoff? Not yet. We wanted to. We just haven't gotten around to it yet. You want to know why? Because I'm exhausted and it's only 9:28.
Oh, very fair. I should probably cook dinner at some point.
We had hamburgers.
Anyways, yeah, Bucky in this one, I think I do like that he's finding his place still. Post Winter Soldier, we saw that a little bit in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but it was still very much him transitioning. And now that I think this one, now that he's here, you know, it seems like he's kind of fallen into the senator thing. We don't know what pushed him. And while that's absolutely something I would love to see, it's not something that bugs me too much.
Something that does bug me, though, about this is, honestly, I didn't expect Bucky to survive this movie.
There's no way they're killing Sebastian Stan.
I think they're going to. I do think there's going to be a point. Like, granted, they killed off a character in this movie, and oh my god, Marvel killed somebody, and it was with a gunshot to the head. That's not cool. But also, it did feel like with the introduction of Sentry, there should have been a little more collateral damage there, especially with Bob really not... Like, you can't say that Bob had 6 hours of therapy with Val, and now he has full control over all of his powers. I fully expected him to go a little too far. Almost like... And I don't like to draw this comparison because Steven Yeun was originally cast as this character, but you look at a character like Invincible, and he doesn't really know his own strength and does some things by accident, and that's kind of what I expected out of Sentry, at least in this first introduction.
So,
of like,
yeah, it definitely
oh shit,
feels
I
like
made a mistake and someone's dead.
It definitely feels like the movie thing, right? Of we just got to keep rolling. But my brain very much just autocorrected with the whole idea of Sentry being like the highs and the lows, right? Where it's, no, he is on that high, so he can control his powers right now.
Fair.
Because when he gets to the Void, he has no control.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting. We talked about lighting for a second. I want to bring it back around for just a second to talk about the Void. Because the lighting on the Void was so damn good.
Perfection.
Like
they could have gone much more like Monster of the Week style with it and have it not even be Lewis Pullman, but I think what they did here was honestly...
Well, for me, it's we're going with the silhouette, and it's all black with just the white pins for eyes, which is terrifying.
It is incredibly off-putting.
Especially
but
when
not scary.
See, I think
Like that-
the point I think it's scary is when he starts off in people.
It scared Carmen a lot. The way the Sentry was designed.
Oh,
The Shadow dude.
Oh, I didn't like him.
Yeah, you didn't like it, but I think in general it was designed in a way that wasn't meant to be scary. It was just meant to
Are
be
we doing
ominous and
spoilers?
creepy. Oh, we're full spoilers.
Okay, when he was talking to the girl, and then all of a sudden went, poof, I jumped.
That was my gasp moment.
That was very much my gasp moment too.
Because like at that point you don't know if it's death or not, and I'm just like, oh my god, they just killed a kid.
They don't kill kids on Rock.
What the hell are they doing?
Dude, you gotta just imagine like Alexi at that moment.
Oh my god, yeah. And again, it comes back to the idea of PTSD. But no, we get to this movie, and he's in a new Avengers jumpsuit sponsored by Tide and Xbox.
Tide, Xbox. There was one other one. I forget.
Those are the two that I remember.
The sleeve just covered in brands.
Yeah. See if I can find a-
But yeah, like the way that they lit,
that thing's going to be all over Temu by like the end of the month, right?
easily. But what I was so surprised about with the Void is that they still made it fit the world. The hard thing to do with that kind of character, especially with lighting, is either it's going to feel too unrealistic or it's going to feel like you're putting a 2D character into that world. So the way they did it with this like subtle lighting on its edges and kind of in some of the creases of where it would be the body, beautiful. And especially in Dolby. God, it looked good.
Now I just want to screw. When can I get free this weekend to see this thing in Dolby?
Oh, I might. I'm struggling on where I'm going to re-up my movie pass. I don't know if I'm going to do it with Regal
you're
or if
going to
I'm
go
gonna
to
do it with
Disney
AMC.
Springs to see a lot of movies.
But I don't know if I want to do that for every movie.
It doesn't. I mean, you don't have to do the Dolby theater, right?
Well, so yeah, but the problem is that's the closest AMC to me.
But I meant more so like, do they like when? At least for our multiplexes, they have like 4 or 5 theaters showing the movie. They're not all Dolby or all IMAX or all 3D, right? Like they do have like the regular screenings as well.
Yeah, so my problem is mostly just with the drive to Disney. Because it's like a 30-minute drive. I don't necessarily want to do that for movies.
That's the only AMC really close to you?
Yeah. But
so then otherwise, what would be Regal?
Regal. Or there's a local one that's like right around the corner.
Mom and pops are kind of nice ones. I wish we had more mom and pops. So Canada, it is very much a monopoly. There is one company owns like 95% of the movie theaters, and it's awful. And I wish there was more competition because like AMC was here and they pulled out of Canada prior to the pandemic. There's like one other small chain, which to their credit, I really like going to that theater because all of their theaters are full recliners, leather seats, really comfy. But it's also, again, it's a similar situation here where the closest one is either downtown, which I don't want to park at because parking is expensive, or it's like 25 minutes north of the city.
Yeah, what's nice about the AMC at Disney Springs is it's a dine-in AMC. So you get like the actual real food and whatnot, which is really fun.
That's why I like going to like the 19 plus theater I've told you about here because our age of legal drinking
18.
legal drinking age. There, I figured it out. My brain's not totally shut off. Is 19 rather than 21, so it's a 19 plus theater because they serve alcohol and they will serve you at your seat, which is really nice. And
The
that's
only
what we
downside to
normally
this
do.
theater was I had to go up to the 3rd floor to get to my seat.
So we normally do that 19 plus theater here, but I've found for the last couple of movies they tend to do this thing where when the tickets first go up, they do it in the theaters that don't have the full recliners, and then I'm just paying a premium for a big comfy chair, where I'd rather pay that same premium price for a full recliner. So we waited to the last minute for this showing, but they didn't put that in the full recliner theaters. They still had things like Sinners and a couple other things playing that took those seats.
Sinners, which I still need to go see.
So do I. Maybe I'll go see that instead. No, I'll just go see this again.
Yeah, do both.
So my options are $12.50 or $3.50 for Dolby Atmos laser projection.
Do whatever works within your schedule. While you look at that, I'm going to talk about Yelena. We've talked about most of the crew so far, right? Taskmaster dying, John being John. Take the piss
do
out
the
of him.
motion seats, like the seats that move. That seems stupid, right?
That seems like it'll be great for this one.
No, but also kind of cool. All right. So
Another great moment for what's worth that got absolute dying of laughter in my theater was when John tries to jump out of the elevator shaft.
Yeah, that was fun.
And it just hangs for a second, for a couple seconds, and then he starts falling back down.
Yeah, that was fun.
That was such a hilarious moment. But yeah, let's talk about Yelena here. Yelena, star of the show, Florence Pugh, my absolute favorite. This movie starting on such a high note of her jumping off of this building and parachuting onto it, and like she doesn't give a shit about this job at this point. Like she's going on this assassin's mission in her sweatsuit.
Another day at the office. Granted, I wouldn't have put on pants today. I didn't leave the house to go to the office, and I don't know why I put pants on. I think, it's a new pair of jeans, so I'm still trying to just kind of like work them in, loosen them up a bit, but otherwise it would have been sweatpants for me too.
Oh yeah. I say currently in sweatpants.
Yeah.
But like her entire vibe at the beginning of this is so perfect for setting up where this movie is at. Of taking this mission, not giving a shit. And like if she had, you would have seen like some of the bits and pieces that would have come into play throughout this movie. The moment that killed me, there's a lot of moments with her that killed me. But the one that really got me was her and Alexei. Of when she just has this breakdown after they try to fight Bob and run. Just was heartbreaking in a way that I'm like, yeah, it's fucking hard.
Mm-hmm. Well, and even earlier in the movie, like they have that moment where he's like, there's no higher calling than serving the public. Your sister understood that. I'm just like, oh man, that's some PTSD that we are not ready to unpack only 25 minutes into this movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what's that feeling of, monotony of every day is the same, which I think is an incredibly relatable feeling. Even right now with where the world's on fire and everything is constantly changing, there are those moments, right, where when stuff gets to a point where things get dark, suddenly that monotonous day to day, go to your job, clock in, clock out, can be one of the hardest things there is to do. Especially when you have depression. I really love the taking for that and how it played into both the superhero stuff and the personal stuff. Like I mentioned, yeah, those moments with Alexei were heartbreaking in so many great ways. Extremely relatable. But then there's the moment of like her taking what Alexei says to heart, and when she's facing down the void, there is that beautiful duality to it of like, yes, she is accepting the void and is accepting this, but she's also facing it and fighting it. She's not running, she is facing it. And it is probably my favorite shot in this movie of her just walking up, taking a breath, and stepping in.
I do think the opening shot of this movie is also really beautiful, and I so cool. Just shout out to Florence Pugh for going to Kevin Feige and be like, "Hey, we're shooting in Malaysia. Can I jump off the second tallest building in the world?"
Dude, I got to imagine that scene of like her jumping off the silo in Black Widow has just been haunting her, and she's like, "Nah, I'm gonna bug Kevin until I make this happen."
I gotta make it real this time. I'm not no stunt doubles. I'm doing this myself. I think as well, as we jump back to the beginning of the movie, one other thing I wanted to talk about is I love that Marvel is subverting expectations with the opening crawl now, or with their version of the crawl with the logo, the Marvel Studios logo treatment of them. Like, oh, this is cool. They're doing comics again. Oh, it's all the Sentry. Oh, it's the Void. That was awesome.
I was like, really good foreshadowing
and something that we. Well, I mean, it's foreshadowing something that we know is going to happen, but also does it in such a way that, I just thought was really neat. And then something else I want to touch on before we get. I don't know if we're going to jump to speculation station soon, but
yeah, we are.
Just shout out to the fact that we both like this isn't the Thunderbolts. Like, there's no Thunderbolt Ross. How are they going to come up with the name? It's a Pee Wee soccer team.
The Thunderbolts were never related to Thunderbolt Ross.
I know.
I do like that it was the Pee Wee soccer team. That was really fucking funny.
They didn't have to keep going back to the bit of, oh, there was a girl and she pooped herself in middle of field.
But they did, and it was great.
It was great the first time. When Alexi brings it back, I'm like, dude.
The thing that really sold it for me was him bringing it back up, but then them arguing about the sponsor.
Yeah, that was funny because I think Dimitri was his cover.
It was his cover
there.
Yeah.
So it was him. He wanted. Oh no, I am sponsored. No, it was not.
But then he goes and complains. He's like, yeah, he didn't have the money for that. Like, God damn it, Alexi.
Didn't have the resources. What are you talking about? Also, just the scene in the desert kills me thinking back to where Alexi was Val's driver that one night. So he drove nonstop through the desert in his costume to get to where they were going to scream in the desert at Yelena, don't go into the vault. They're going to incinerate you.
Alexi is
such
the
a
definition
great
of,
bit that pays off so well.
In so many great ways, Alexi is the definition of act first, think later.
They're going to kill him off in Doomsday, and it's going to be heartbreaking.
See, that one I might agree with. But you also got to stop just killing off everybody. That's your go-to right now for some reason.
Look, I expected there to be more stakes here. Kind of disappointed there weren't in the end, like the third act of this. But I do think Doomsday is going to feel to the tune of Infinity War of like, oh God, what just happened?
See, I don't think it needs any more stakes. I think we fully were there already. Like especially when you are telling a story about how it is easier to get through these dark moments with other people. Killing somebody off in that moment doesn't help.
That's also very true. But I think what we need to get to as I talk about foreshadowing or speculation on who might pass in subsequent Avengers films.
Post-credits.
First, New Avengers. I don't love the idea that we're basically doing Civil War 2.
See, I don't think we are. I think we're doing
there's elements of that.
I think this is more in the style of the lead-in to Secret Wars.
Yeah.
Where the Illuminati
I just wonder,
was separate.
I just wonder are we just going to get to a point in Doomsday where it's like, yeah, here's Sam, and there's a team behind him, and it's, Shang-Chi and Wong and whoever else.
At the same time,
or are they going to give that the time to actually build that team out? There isn't really anything between now and then to do post-credits fun stuff. Other than maybe Fantastic Four, but at that point, I think the Fantastic Four post-credit scene is going to be continuation of the post-credit scene we got here.
I mean, that or either probably because we know that this was the post-credit scene was directed by the Russo brothers.
Do we know that for sure?
That has been confirmed.
It was confirmed. Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure because of the way that it thanked John Watts in the credits. I thought it might have actually been shot on the set of Fantastic Four.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know you and I were theorizing about that earlier. But yeah, looking ahead, I mean, we got Fantastic Four.
Which will unfortunately end with the death of their universe, and they have to escape their universe. That's how they end up in the MCU.
Yeah, which will probably be that, and we'll probably have some foreshadowing for Doom. Because it's a Fantastic Four movie, kind of.
You would assume, but also the version of Victor Von Doom that we get in Doomsday may not be their Victor Von Doom.
No, I think it'll just be, bits and pieces. I think what it will be is they do their multiversal travel thing, and Doom sees it from his universe or whatever.
Follows them through the incursion or something. Maybe, what? Maybe that's the post-credits of Fantastic Four, right? Of him following them into the MCU universe. And because his universe is also dying because we're getting this multiversal collision that is going to lead to the death of all universes and lead to what will essentially equate to what we got in Secret Wars 2.
True. So we have, after Fantastic Four, we're straight into Doomsday.
There is another MCU film on the Disney calendar for February, but it hasn't been announced what that may be or if it's even still going to be.
So there's one for February and there's one for November.
Yeah. Well, November would put it between Brand New Day and
which makes me wonder how
Wars,
much they're going to properly be related to things.
I'd expect it to be more standalone, and then it is.
I would expect whatever comes out February 13th to be an Ant-Man and the Wasp situation.
Yeah.
Or a Captain Marvel situation.
Yeah, and I would say the same between Spider-Man and Secret Wars, and I expect Spider-Man to very much be, this is why he's not part of the events of Doomsday. Mm-hmm. And when this movie ends, it whatever the post credit is, similar to what we got with I think it was the post credit of Captain Marvel when Fury and Hill both dust away, right? Where it was this film happened outside of the context of what we got for Infinity War, but the post credit scene sets up where the characters from this film end up at leading into the events of Secret Wars. And I think Spider-Man, whatever comes out in that other or November window, will be in a similar boat if we even get anything announced for that. Because other than D23, which you said is fall this year?
End of summer.
Late summer?
Yep.
There isn't a lot of room left to say, hey, there's new things coming out. Because you have to imagine Spider-Man production is going to start fairly soon. And whatever's going to come out, like, if something's coming out in February that we don't know about, that's odd.
Yeah, I wonder if any of those movies are going to be adjusted. I could see one of them being maybe like Young Avengers.
Maybe. I still think that's a Disney Plus show.
I mean, we know Nova was canceled.
But I could honestly see like Hawkeye season 2. There's been some hubbub on the internet about Jeremy Renner not being offered as much money, and that it was going to focus more on Haley Steinfeld. Maybe that is just. It's not Hawkeye season 2. It is just this is how we're doing Young Avengers.
Was one of those movies supposed to be Blade?
I think so.
Like I'm trying to think of what we got coming up. And like Phase 6 is like we got plenty TV wise. And like none of the TV stuff I think is going to be fitting in to this. Like we got Eyes of Wakanda, Phase 6. Marvel Zombies is Phase 6. Ironheart comes out this year, and I want to remind people of that because there's been no fucking marketing for that shit.
And that's September?
I believe so, but do not quote me. That'd be a great check, if you would please.
I'm on it.
Yeah. Eyes of Wakanda, Marvel Zombies, Wonder Man, which Wonder Man is going to be separate from everything.
Griffin.
Tell me it's in like a week.
No, I'll tell you it's in about 7.
Well, at least we get a break in between Andor and Ironheart.
June 24th.
Okay, at least we get a short break. I know they were pumping this shit out this year.
We've also got Vision Quest next year.
I was going to say, we also got Vision Quest I was going to throw out. We've got Daredevil Born Again Season 2. And we've got Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man Season 2. I don't think any of those really play into Doomsday or the building of the Avengers. I would tell you, Doomsday is probably going to be half whatever Doom is up to, half Sam building the Avengers and
the conflict with the new Avengers.
The conflict with the new Avengers that is going to get pushed aside almost immediately because there's a multiversal threat.
Yeah,
I think that this
Shang-Chi
conflict
2 could maybe be one of those films.
Maybe,
especially if they shoot it back to back with Doomsday.
Yeah, I think this conflict between the two Avengers teams is just their reminder that Sam is also building a team.
Yeah,
I don't think that it's going to be a proper big conflict. I don't think you're getting the Avengers versus the new Avengers.
No, I don't either. I think the next big conflict that we'll get in film is going to be Avengers versus X-Men. And I think that's what Phase 7 and beyond is going to build to.
Mm-hmm. But I love what we do here. I love this moment at the end, right, of them setting things up. I love that they have that different Avengers A that looks so bad.
Yeah, it does, but that's because it's been focus tested by Val, and that's what people thought they wanted out of a new Avengers.
Right?
Exactly. Which is exactly what the new Avengers that were the Thunderbolts ended up being in the comics. And I love that this group, while different from the comic book variants of the Thunderbolts, is still maintaining a lot of that same undertones when it comes to the wider MCU or the wider Marvel universe.
I think Bucky's in charge of the Thunderbolts right now, ironically enough.
Right now, yeah, the new run of the Thunderbolts season.
But there's also a whole thing happening with the Thunderbolts in comics right now.
Yeah, I'm thinking more back to like the I'm talking like Norman Osborn, Songbird. That
with the Dark
incarnation
Avengers
of the Thunderbolts. Yeah.
But no, I just think it's funny because it's that, and then also it's all related to Doom right now in the comic books too.
Which tracks because they want to set up Doom as being like it's synergy, right? They want to synergize between the films. And
there's
the
definitely that synergy there, but there's also the added aspect of comics. These storylines started 2 years ago. The storyline they're doing though right now is that Doom finally took over the world, and everything is actually better.
Do you
And
think we could get a third Doctor Strange movie as part of multiverse? Or the
maybe
multiverse saga?
so that's what I would expect. I think because we have that whole ending with Clea. I think it would be the founding. They could do something along the lines of the founding of the Illuminati.
Well, and then the events of that, like let's assume that Strange isn't involved in the events of Doomsday, but the repercussions of Doomsday, if it does set up Secret Wars similar to Secret Wars 2 in the comics, Strange is a very integral part of that, and it would make sense that a post-credit scene teases him being pulled into Doom's battle.
It makes me wonder also if Leader's going to be playing into things. There was a rumor going around the last couple days that Leader is going to essentially be Doom's number 2 when we get into Secret Wars.
That would be cool, but I really hope that they fix his design. Have you seen the leaks that have come out of the original design?
I see them. I think they both are not. I think neither of them are good.
But I think the big head look with VFX would have looked better than the exposed brain look.
I like the exposed brain look. I just think that they should have gone a little bit longer. Still,
yeah.
That's a hard character to do in live action, right? That's such a
fully agree there.
Cartoony character. Nothing you do is going to look right with that guy.
You just got to watch Earth's Mightiest Heroes, and that is the best version of the Leader we've ever.
You know what this is? This is a MODOK situation. There's no way MODOK was ever going to look good in the MCU.
Yeah. At least they gave him a reason to bring back Corey Stoll.
True. I will say also though, shout out to the Avengers video game, because that is the only time I've ever seen MODOK be like actually intimidating.
He was pretty good in Avengers Assemble when he like merges with the Super Adaptoid.
Yeah, but he's still big head weirdo.
He's always big head weirdo. The character is big head weirdo.
Yeah, but like at least in like the Avengers, there's a level of it that is so cartoony that just it takes me out of ever being intimidated by this guy, which is part of the point of the character.
Yeah,
I like that in the Avengers game, like he's actually terrifying.
You see the descent into madness. What I didn't like about the Avengers video game, we should do an episode on that. I'd love to go back and replay that campaign.
I just sold my copy.
I think I actually have an extra copy.
I think I might have a digital version too. So. Oh, actually, I know I did because I bought the PS5 version digital at full price.
So I bought the PS4 version physical because I wanted to physically own what was going to be the greatest game of all time. That didn't end up happening, but I had the physical version, and then I got the all digital PS5. And in order to be able to play it on the PS5, I had to buy it again. So I bought a second copy and tried to give someone the physical copy. They never took it. So I do have an extra physical copy of the PS4 version.
We should do an Avengers episode because I love that game and I would love to.
Not a single part. I mean, if we label it correctly for YouTube in terms of the SEO of like Square Enix's Avengers, what went, or Crystal Dynamics Avengers, what went wrong?
You know what I'm going to call it?
And the answer is nothing. It was perfect.
What the episode's title is Avengers was actually a good video game.
Well, no, it's Crystal Dynamics Avengers. What went wrong? ?
See, I just want to fight the internet though.
No, I know, but you can fight the internet, but also get them to come in by making it a hit piece that actually isn't.
True.
Because it was a great game.
But what if we
poor post-launch support?
But what if we just piss them off from the start?
And they won't click on the video.
Yeah, but the same goal is achieved. I just want to.
But we want them to click on the video, Griffin. That's the whole point of YouTube.
Oh, see, I'm just going straight to the part of the internet that is let's just upset people.
Oh, you just want to burn it all down. I see how it is. Anarchy in the streets. Crystal Dynamics Avengers in ruins.
It already is. It's already gone.
I don't want to go back to it because, like, I never got to play as. Did they end up at it? They added Winter Soldier, I think, at the end.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
So the last time I booted that game up was because I was so excited they were adding Spider-Man to the game, and you open it and it's like a one-page comic, all like no VFX, no animation, it's just flat panel. Here's how Spider-Man's added to this game, and then he's there and he plays like ass.
Mm-hmm. I didn't think he played that bad. I don't think it was good, but
I don't think it was not good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll use this picture. Okay, we'll definitely do that episode at some point. Add it to the list.
And I have friends that I played that with regularly that I would like to get on that. because it'll be chaos.
I'm gonna reach out to somebody about that.
Ooh, actually, I have someone else to reach out to about that.
I have someone in mind.
I wonder if your someone probably isn't my someone.
No, probably not.
Is your someone Aaron? Who?
I'll tell you later.
Okay.
I'm gonna try to pull on big guns for that one.
Oh, yeah, let's do that.
Anyways, bringing it back to this, talking about this post-credit stuff, right? Like, I'm very interested to see how some of this goes. I think Yelena at this point is a face of the MCU. Between her and Black Widow, the love of her in Hawkeye, and this movie, like Yelena is one of the reasons right now to watch the MCU. Like, I think she is going to be a big figure when it comes to Doomsday and Secret Wars at this point. She kind of has to be.
She needs to be that grounded element the same way that Nat was through the events of Infinity War and Endgame.
Mm-hmm. I can't see really anybody else on this team going in with that. I think maybe Bucky. Just because...
Maybe, but I also see Bucky to me is going to be more of like the Nick Fury, not quite Nick Fury because you still got Val, but like I'm going to oversee this and I know what I'm doing. I've got the tactical experience. I've got decades of experience at this point. Like,
so I got to imagine, right, that we're going to kind of have two teams here. Because we know that, in Doomsday and Secret Wars...
Honestly, it could be more, right? Because how many teams... We had, 3 teams in Infinity War? Team Space, Team Wakanda, and Team Government?
Yeah. Well, and even then it kind of fell down into 2 teams. Or... Because Team Space ended up teaming...
Well, it was 2 teams plus Iron Man found the Guardians.
Yeah.
Well, no,
because the Guardians ended up meeting up with Tony.
The Guardians also split up. So there was actually 4 teams because you had Thor and
then
Rocket.
Then the two teams combined into 2. Because Thor, Rocket, and Groot end up in Wakanda.
Right. Because Secret Avengers and Avengers made up and told.
Why was this so complicated?
Because the Russo brothers created a cinematic masterpiece with too many goddamn characters.
You want a hot take? I'm going to give you a hot take. After this movie, and not me loving this movie, I am not excited for the Russo brothers to be directing Doomsday and Secret Wars.
Yeah?
I wish it was someone.
I would say that's a lukewarm take.
Like, I don't know. I don't think they're going to do a good job with it.
I hope you're wrong.
I love what they've done. I love what they've done previously with Marvel. Even the stuff they did on their own wasn't bad. It just wasn't good. Like...
I think the challenge when you get into Doomsday and Secret Wars is there hasn't been the same kind of build. Right? The Multiverse Saga has been a bit of a wet fart to the general audience. And now you're building that wet fart into something that you've just given to somebody that has a track record of delivering for you. But they delivered for you when you had a decade plus to be able to develop those characters and build it. The Multiverse Saga went through COVID and it's going to be wrapped up in 6
I think it's the
years?
same. I would tell you it is a similar build. It is a similar build from where we were to now. The problem...
It's definitely more content.
The problem is that we have done it once before. Anytime you do a sequel, you're going to get compared to the original.
Yeah.
And that has been a lot of people's issues with phases 4 and 5 of the MCU. Has been comparing it to phases 1 through 3. It doesn't necessarily make sense. Comparing phase 4 to phase 1 makes more sense. And I think they're very comparable and very similar. And then phase 5 and phase 2, comparing those makes sense to some degree. But even then, it's a different type of build-up we're doing here. But we're still building up to this big one. I do think it didn't really feel like we were building up into it until now. Especially after everything with Douche Canoe that was playing Kang.
Jonathan Majors.
Thank you. Especially after all of that, like Kang now kind of having to be put to the sideline because that dude sucks. Like,
also taking aside all of the extraordinary events around the actor, the character was not built in a way that he was menacing or a threat or any. Lost to Ant-Man There's no redeeming yourself from that.
First off, Ant-Man is far more powerful than we ever give him credit for. Second off,
This version of Ant-Man less so.
Second off, the Council of Kangs was a very cool moment, and I think because of Loki, they were setting up Kang in an interesting place. But then you have to hard left turn it when you have to get rid of an actor that way. Like, you have to either recast, which they do not like doing in the MCU now for some reason.
It was great when they did it with Don Cheadle. That was funny. Also, Armor Wars. There's one of your two movies that no one's going to care about between Doomsday and Secret Wars.
So here's my theory. I don't know what that first one is. I think that second one is Young Avengers.
I hope so. But I also wouldn't mind Young Avengers being a Disney Plus production because I feel like they could give those characters more screen time, which they're going to need. This worked really well, I think, with the... Essentially, you had... It was Bucky and Yelena, right? The other characters did feel kind of background most of the time, or there for comedic relief. When you're setting up something like Young Avengers, there are characters that don't even have their powers yet that you're going to try to set up there, and it's going to be more challenging to do that in a 2-hour film than it would be if you had,
so I think it's the
6 to 8
style of
hours.
it. I think it's either because most of the people that they would put in have their powers. There's only one person that doesn't, and I'm not even convinced that he's going to be in it.
See, I think he's going to be in it, but that is going to be the vehicle to bring the audience along for the journey. Like,
Are you also talking about Patriot?
Yeah, I'm 1,000% talking about Patriot. I think Patriot in the Young Avengers and the story that they're trying to tell is going to be the fish out of water audience's vessel to pull us through that journey, the character that we can relate to, because everyone else is already pretty well established. I don't think they will.
I don't think Elena's a part of it. I don't think Patriot's a part of it either. I think they would have reminded us about him in Captain America if he was going to be.
So we're thinking just stature.
Like stature at the moment. Hawkeye, Miss Marvel, Wiccan, Speed.
Oh yeah, Wiccan and Speed.
Captain Marvel,
Agatha,
obviously. Captain Marvel as a leader, Agatha in some
I don't
capacity.
know if you get Captain Marvel in that, to be honest.
Well, after the way the Marvels ends?
Even still, I could see, I think Carol's doing something off-world and Miss Marvel goes back home to spend some time with her folks in Jersey.
I mean, I think either her or Jeremy Renner are a shoo-in for at least a moment at the beginning.
Well, I don't think it'll be Jeremy Renner now because of this very public spat with Marvel. Unless they can rectify it similarly to what Scarlett Johansson did with Black Widow.
Yeah. Like, I think there's a lot you can do there, and here, I don't think this one has set anything up for it, but I do think that the being there. Oh yeah, America Chavez.
Oh yeah.
Like I'm interested. I think that they are looking at things right now, and like Disney is, as a whole, is currently reevaluating how they're doing series for Disney Plus versus movies. We saw that when we talked last episode. I think last episode, 2 episodes ago. Last episode about Moana 2. So I think that a Young Avengers champions, I think we do after this one being after them ending this with the New Avengers, it's absolutely champions.
It's not Young Avengers unless Val is the one bringing this team together. So I don't think that's going to be the case.
Here's my theory for all of this. Right, is I think Val plays an antagonistic role into that, and the reason that they are the champions is because they cannot use Avengers because of her.
Technically, because of Sam.
Well, yes, but Sam wouldn't have.
He has the trademark.
Well, I think Val does something underhanded.
No, I know. I think it'll be really interesting to see. I do think there's an interesting story that could be told there, depending on where, like, if the events of Doomsday take our heroes to other universes, it leaves a void to battle whatever terrestrial threats there are to Earth, New York, wherever it is. And that probably leaves that void, during the timeline of the events of Doomsday before Doom Snap or whatever it is that ends up creating Battleworld for Secret Wars or whatever it is that sets up Secret Wars. Gives them an opportunity to come together as a group to face some threat that everyone else is no longer around to combat, right?
Hear me out. Fuck it. Defenders movie. Let's go.
Okay, that's the other qualm I have with this. Stop doing friggin', alpha level threats to New York City, and friggin' Daredevil and Spider-Man don't even bother to show up.
Okay, I was listening to Kind of Funny's review of this earlier, and they said something similar, and I have a massive issue with it. Okay. This is not directed at you; it's more at them, but it's for this issue as a whole. Because
I haven't watched their shit yet. So
one of the defining characteristics of almost every single hero in Marvel is trauma. Every single other hero in New York in that moment is reliving their worst traumas ever. And
assuming they were eaten up by the Void, yeah.
So for some characters, that's another Tuesday, but that's kicking Matt's ass. That's kicking Peter's ass. But
they both have super sense that can get them away from it before it becomes a thing.
Yeah, but it takes over the entire island.
Yeah, but Matt's in Hell's Kitchen and Peter's in Brooklyn.
The entire island.
But the island is Manhattan. They both frequent the boroughs.
Dude, Hell's Kitchen is on the island.
Yes, it is. I'm dumb.
And Peter moves to right across from Rockefeller Center.
Yeah, he's right at 30 Rock. That's true. Okay, well, I'm dumb.
Also, you were thinking
geography
of Queens.
is hard. Okay, here's the thing, okay? I don't like history and I don't like geography. You want to know why? When in school, I was in a program where you do part of your, or I guess when I was young enough, it was half of your day in English, half of your day in French. And that continued into high school, where I did 1 to 2 courses a year in French every year to get this certificate at the end of high school.
Let me guess what
two of the courses, other than French language, were geography and history. So I hate geography and I hate history.
Those are really weird choices for that, but also better that than math.
Well, yeah, I don't know what de plus de it needs to be. I can do that math do good, but you ask me to point out something on a map, I'll probably get close.
Yeah, for me, it's, yes, other heroes might talk about this, but other heroes are disposed with their own shit because of the events of this. This isn't a situation like in No Way Home.
Avengers?
Well, Avengers doesn't, I wouldn't count Avengers because none of the other heroes were really founded yet. But No Way Home,
yeah, that was the whole thing in, what was it, Iron Man 2, where it's you're creating all these copycats. You've created this, you've opened the floodgates to all of these would-be heroes coming out of the woodwork.
Oh, sorry, too. But yeah, for me, it's No Way Home, where the skies are ripping apart. It doesn't make sense for other heroes to not show up for that. Totally understand it for situations like that. I think what was unique about the Void situation is that it gave a easy out as to why there were no other characters there.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's all suspension of disbelief. They're dealing with the events in the moment. It is what it is. But
so they had to have this. It's
something
big
I'm going
event.
to continue to call out because it's a trope that I don't like.
This is also a massive event. They needed this level of an event to announce a new Avengers team. You can't just say, "Oh, this took over 4 square blocks. We need an Avengers team to deal with that." No, it's got to be, the entire island of Manhattan is in trouble. Who saved us? The new Avengers.
And I do love that the way that Val sets it up at the end of tricking them into the news conference.
So good.
She's a dick in the best way, and I'm glad that we have this foil for this new Avengers team, similar to what we had with Thunderbolt Ross, William Hurt in Infinity War, where we're going to get to the events of Doomsday. These two teams are going to be at odds over trademark infringement because Avengers with a Z isn't enough of a differentiation. And they're eventually going to sit in a room. Bucky and Sam be like, shit's going crazy. Yeah. So we're all the Avengers, right? Yeah. All right. Val go suck a lemon, and they're going to go and do Avengers things.
Or they have that moment with Yelena, right? Where she's like, we own you. Exactly. Val did that to save her ass. Because every single one of them was going to kill her.
Well, not even kill her. Every single one of them is evidence in the impeachment and impending criminal trial of Contessa Valentina Allegra de la
I'm not the
Fontaine.
only person who has issues with this name.
I mean, Wendell Pierce does too, right?
Mhm.
It's de Fontaine.
Solid bit. 10 out of
De
10 bit.
Fontaine.
But I was mostly
Louis Dreyfus
referencing
is
like
just a master of comedy, and I'm so glad that we have her in the MCU.
I'm mostly referencing, for what it's worth, in the them killing of them walking towards her, literally saying that they're going to kill her.
Yeah, but I mean, Alexei says a lot of crazy things.
It wasn't Alexei. Alexei was the one confused about it. It was Ghost and John. They're absolutely gonna murder her.
Oh, well, I mean, they're the murderers of the group. Of course they were going to murder her. Do you think John gets a new shield before Doomsday?
No.
No, because
Well-
it was still bent in the post-credit scene, right?
Yeah, still bent in the post-credit scene. And they have the art of him writing it in the credits. The credits, by the way, fantastic.
But also, like, I'm curious about the timeline. And for one reason and one reason only, and that's Alexei's facial hair. Because you have him at
Shaved
the
down to a
end
mustache.
you have him at the end of the events of the film. He's got a beard like me, although a little more disheveled. Then you get to the post-credit scene. One,
Mustache.
handlebar mustache. Beautiful.
Beautiful.
mustard.
They should
10 out of
never
10.
do anything else.
And then you have the second post-credit scene where he's got the goatee. So either these events happened well apart from each other so he can grow out that luscious goatee,
14 months.
or
apart
he's a
from-
wizard.
Well, first off, he's Russian.
Same thing.
I'm just assuming that they can grow facial hair easily. But what I would imagine is
Not
the
that
first,
easy.
if we're going to timeline stuff, the first one is like right after the events of the movie. And then there is that 14-month jump to the second post-credit scene,
Did it say 14 months later?
Yeah.
Okay, I missed that.
which was very
Mostly-
weirdly specific.
The problem I had with that, well, 14 months from now would be the events of Doomsday.
Shit.
July of next year,
Yeah,
right?
that makes sense.
So that lines up. And then as well, they spoiled the second end credit scene for me.
Mhm.
Because I'm the person that watches for all of the musical credits specifically. And Michael Giacchino was credited for the Fantastic Four theme that he wrote for Steps. And then the post-credit scene is their ship coming through the multiversal anomaly detected, whatever it was. And I leaned over and Carmen, I'm like, it's the Fantastic Four. Because I knew because of that. So that's kind of annoying. But
So I didn't, because I A, was not paying that close attention, and B, when I did see that, I thought it was somewhere in the movie and I missed it.
okay, I will say,
Because my brain was like,
shout out-
there's no way they'll spoil the post-credit scene.
they've done that before. Where
I'm an idiot,
where the
man.
Avengers theme was credited, and then they had an Avengers tease in the end in the post-credit scene. Either way, one last thing I want to say before we wrap. I feel like we're wrapping here.
Oh, we're getting close. We've been talking for a
Okay.
while.
The IMAX intro before the movie, they usually
the
do this
Fantastic
countdown.
Four one.
They do the countdown and all this stuff. They replaced it with a Fantastic Four one, and I was so happy.
Actually,
So
I might
happy.
have to go see it in IMAX just for that.
I wouldn't do it just for that. What I would do is see Fantastic Four in IMAX.
But see, Dolby.
You know what, Griffin? Both.
Both is the answer
Both.
here.
Both is the answer.
The final thing I want to end this on is, of course, the music. We mentioned it a bunch of times throughout this, but yeah, the changing into the Avengers theme at the end, and then the layering of the Thunderbolts theme with it. Fantastic, perfect way to wrap up this movie into a
Very happy.
hilarious credit sequence that I was like looking at, and I had that once over. I'm like, did they do the AI thing again? I was like, oh, no, this is actual art. Yeah, good job.
It's unfortunate we have to think that way, though.
True. I will say one of the good bits on it was, I don't know if you noticed, but the hamster that she saved at the beginning was in a couple guinea pig was in a couple of pieces of the art in the credits.
No, I didn't catch that.
So next time you watch it, the one that I saw get called out was the one where they're recreating George Washington on the Delaware. The hamster guinea pig is
Guinea pig.
close enough.
It's not. They're two very different animals.
Again, close enough. But the guinea pig is at the front of the boat. It's cute. This movie's great. Fantastic movie, folks. If you stick with us this long, you've probably seen it already. Go watch it again. Because frankly, you should. It's a great movie.
Or convince your family and friends that have lapsed on the MCU because it's too much to watch, it's too much to keep up with, to give this one a shot.
Mm-hmm. You really don't need much to know. You really don't need to know much going into this one. It stands alone pretty well. And it rewards you for knowing what you want to know.
So I am a little worried. Just when we're recording this, like we've mentioned a couple times, the Friday of the release, Thursday night previews brought in 11.5 million at the domestic box office, which is lower than Captain America: Brave New World's 12 million. So I am a little concerned about box office performance. So if you want to do anything for us coming out of this episode of the show, please just go and convince 2 other people to watch this movie. Just 2. And keep this going because we want Marvel to make more movies like this.
Mm-hmm. I'm not worried. It makes sense that this would be lower than Captain America.
Pre-sales for opening weekend were in line with what we saw from Eternals.
Again, I'm not surprised by that. Thunderbolts is an unknown quantity. And I think now that people know and that we have the reviews out, our review out, I think people are now going to go see the movie. Now that people know this is actually a great movie. This isn't just Marvel good. This is a good movie.
Yeah, you got to hope it has that steady climb. It's not one of the flash in the pan week 1 and then a huge drop off like we saw with Captain America. It'll be that week 1. Enough folks will see it, and that word of mouth will allow it to spread and get us to the next big thing, which is Lilo and Stitch for us.
For us, yeah. Although I might try to convince you to do a not Disney Plus again.
To do what, sorry?
A non-Disney D plus us again.
For what?
We'll talk about it.
Okay.
Last thing I want to end on for this. Actually, nah. We'll talk ranking another time. Because frankly, we keep saying that should be an episode.
We have to do our MCU ranks as its own episode. Maybe we do that
before Doomsday at the very least.
Because we do it through Phase 5. Or I would do it before Fantastic Four.
I would say let's do it after so we can include Fantastic Four. Anyways, we'll figure that out. Go check out the other episodes of the show. Go check out the weekly show where right now we are talking all about Andor Season 2. It's another episode we got to record soon.
I got to go watch the 6th episode.
Same.
It's the only one I have left.
Go check out that stuff. Go check out the other episodes of this show. We will be back with another movie next time. But until then, be good to each other and have a magical day.
Excelsior.